A long time ago, something was lost, but not forgotten. Remembered in tales, in stories and legends. Some have chosen to forget. Others strive to keep it alive. But now the time has come to reclaim what was disposed.
According to the historical novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms, long ago the great Prime Minister Zhuge Liang discovered the ultimate ally to use in the battlefield, nature. He explained that there are two kinds of armies, one with troops, swords and shields. The other army was the natural forces, the winds, lightning, fog, rain, the stars, the moon, the mountains and the earth itself. If a good general wishes to become brilliant, he must first acknowledge the importance of the natural environment around him. He must be able to predict the changes and call upon the elements to assist his purpose at any given time. But how can it be achieved, and what are the methods and reasons for these practices? All fundamental building blocks of reality have codes, networks and systems which can be exploited by the wise esoteric practitioner in a variety of different ways. The philosophy behind Taoist weather magic is deep and personal. You are not simply changing the external world, you are becoming one with these forces internally. The phrase "feeling under the weather" relates to the partnership between man and nature and how they influence each other. You must first tame the storms of your own psyche, the rains of drought, the sudden lightning strikes of fear. You must calm the raging rivers within yourself. Making changes to the environment also enables change within the mind. It unifies you with the Tao. Within Taoist belief, the legendary Northern Dipper, aka the Seven Stars, are an essential piece of this practice. Despite the name, this asterism actually contains 9 stars with 2 invisible ones. Each of them house one of the 9 star lords, who are known as the accountants of the heavens. They govern the fortune and luck of every mortal, keeping records on their sins and good deeds. They can remove karmic debt from us, and they can also remove our names from the register of death, or put us there, depending on our earthly actions. Certain stars have great influence over all of us, whether we know it or not. The 7 stars correspond to the 7 planets of Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury, Venus, the Moon, Yin, and the Sun, Yang. The Dipper was also viewed by ancient Taoists as a bridge between the heaven and the earth. I personally value the Dipper so much that I have named my outdoor altar the Altar of the 7 Stars. From this sacred platform I have called forth strong winds, snowstorms, long-lasting rains, fog and thunder, just to name a few. And I am now lifting the veil on this obscure arcane art by filming a complete weather ceremony from beginning to end. There are 6 laws to Taoist weather magic: the law of names, the law of words of power, the law of personification, the law of evocation, the law of invocation, and the law of identification. These laws are understood by few, as Taoist weather magic is highly complex and challenging, but they are there to keep the practitioner safe and to allow him or her to achieve greatness beyond measure. The most famous story involving Taoist weather magic and zhuge liang comes from the historical novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms. During the winter of 208-209, at the end of the Han Dynasty, a naval battle between Wei and the allied forces of Wu and Shu Han had taken place, famously known as the Battle of the Red Cliffs. Sun Quan of Wu, Liu Bei of Shu, and Cao Cao of Wei. Cao Cao had the numbers advantage, so the allied forces had to be resourceful in order to gain victory. Zhou Yu, courtesy named Gong Jin, was a general and strategist of Wu. Along with the legendary zhuge liang, both men sat together to devise a cunning plan by writing on their palms with ink. Both shared the same strategy, a fire attack on Wei's fleet of ships. Since the Wei soldiers were not accustomed to naval battles, the crew had linked the ships together to prevent them from getting seasickness, but this would turn out to be a major mistake for Cao Cao. Chaining the ships together was a clever trick by Pang Tong. Everything seemed to be set in motion. The ships were now chained together. The fire attack unit led by Huang Gai were ready and waiting. However, at the last minute, Zhou Yu had forgotten to consider the direction of the wind, which during winter only blew from the northwest. In order for the attack to be successful, the winds would need to blow from the southeast. Otherwise, the ships of the allied forces would be destroyed by their own flames. Realizing this, Zhou Yu fell ill from worry and was in a state of panic. The entire plan was now in jeopardy until zhuge liang proposed an incredible solution. Kongming told Zhou Yu that he was a weather magician, capable of calling forth winds and rains using Taoist magic. An altar known as the Altar of the Seven Stars was constructed on Nanping Hill, and zhuge liang took a bath of purification and performed his prayers whilst dressed in Taoist robes. He paced the Northern Dipper, sprinkled water into the basins, and prayed silently. The direction of the wind suddenly changed. Because of this, the fire attack was a success, and victory for the Allies was obtained. My name is Lord Josh Allen. For the greater part of a decade, I have dedicated much of my life to the esoteric arts, mastering the methods of Taoist weather magic. It is there in the eye of the storm where I become my true self, becoming one with the winds and clouds as they all nourish my physical body and feed my spirit. I invite you to join me on my altar. Welcome to Sorcery of the Seven Stars. Weather magic is quite possibly the oldest form of magic ever known to man. It was practiced before written language, even before language itself. It goes back to the very beginning of man, when we were learning how to dance the rains. Without learning these forgotten methods, mankind would have gone extinct long ago. Using the weather for agriculture is just as important as using fire for warmth or cooking. Over the thousands of years, weather magic has indeed changed, and rightly so. It has gotten more precise, potent, and refined. In the early times, it was very much trial and error. Now we know what works, and the Taoist system has it down to a fine science. The type of weather magic that I practice is roughly 1800 years old. Quite old, yes, but certainly not prehistoric. In the 3rd century, the Taoists had their weather magic system almost perfect. It had an incredibly high success rate, and it was one of the most popular forms of occult practice in the Far East. Back then, weather practitioners were known for their black square robes, gold lotus crowns, and long dark hair. They walked a fine line between good and evil, preferring to stay within the middle path, otherwise known as grey magic. They were viewed as an elite class of priests, but that's not to say they didn't encounter any hardship.
In 3rd century China, demand for weather manipulation was high. Rich warlords and emperors would search for experienced practitioners specializing in this field. These magicians would be hired, usually to summon rain, but if a magician brought too much or too little, or worst yet, none at all, there would be severe consequences. Often enough, weather magicians would be beaten and imprisoned for several weeks if they didn't satisfy the emperor's demands. If they failed to bring any rain, they would be executed. But if the magician succeeded in calling the correct amount of rain, he would be paid extremely well, enough to not work for at least one whole calendar year. Payoffs for a single ritual were huge, and as such, these priests enjoyed a high place within the Chinese social class system. It is important to understand that most Taoist weather magicians walk different paths. There are 3 powers within Taoism, which are 3 different disciplines of magic: the magical powers of man, the magical powers of earth, and the magical powers of heaven. Each are different paths and expressions of ritual magic. The magical powers of man is based on magic that comes from the self, power that originates from the mind and body of the practitioner. People who follow this path are known as mystics. The magical powers of earth is based upon magic that comes from nature, soil, rocks, plants, vegetation, and even the astral bodies. It is external power. Those who walk this path are known as magicians. The magical powers of heaven is based upon magic that is divine and otherworldly. It comes from deities, immortals, gods, elementals, and spirits. These practitioners petition deities to cause change to the world. Those who follow this path are known as priests or sorcerers. For my weather working, I will be using a combination of heaven and earth. I find that blending some of the powers together creates a very potent recipe for success. Unlike most people back in those war-torn days, weather practitioners actually benefited from the chaos of the lands. If a strong drought wiped out an entire province, it would create opportunities for these special priests to earn a living. This put them in such a unique position compared to the vast majority, who were struggling to just survive. Sadly, fast forward to 2019, and hardly anyone knows about their rich history. There are less than 1,000 Taoist weather magicians left, and that number is steadily decreasing. However, this is all about to change. For the first time ever, I have gathered several occultists from different paths and backgrounds, and I have asked their opinions on the practice. I figured it would be interesting to hear what other people think about weather magic, so you're not just going to hear it from me all the time. Other viewpoints are always welcome. So first up, we have a video from my friend Bless Parko on the benefits of using weather magic.
Hello there, Bless here, and tonight I'm going to state my thoughts about weather magic. I think it is beneficial and very much helpful. Not just beneficial but and helpful, but it is really needed in this period where strong typhoons, forest fires, and superstorms are happening all around the world. We need to weaken the storms, most especially if it's a superstorm, to help lessen the casualties and to help protect the infrastructure around the place where the superstorm is about to hit. That's why I think it is important to be learned right now. And I think that it's very rare for to find someone who's competent at it. That's why if a person thinks that they have the potential to practice weather magic, then I think they should give it a try, because I think it is one of the paths that are actually misunderstood, because unfortunately people it's a normal attitude that people are afraid of what they don't understand, and this path is one of the many misunderstood paths around magic, and people need to be well informed about it, because this is an excellent way to take good care of our environment. In conjunction with taking good care of our environment the mundane way, by means of recycling, keeping the environment clean, avoiding pollution at all as much as possible, we can use weather magic to not just to weaken the superstorms, but we can also use it to restore balance to Mother Nature, because Mother Nature herself needs to not just be balanced but also be healed, because she has already received a lot of traumas and a lot of pain due to the pollution that humans have put in this entire planet. So we can help save Mother Nature, we can help save our planet also by means of learning at least weather magic, or learning how it works. That's why I think it is very much important.
Thank you for the video, Bless. I appreciate your views, and you raised a really good point. Weather magic is extremely misunderstood. Even other magicians misunderstand it. The aim of weather magic is not to play God with nature, but to connect with it on a deeper level. People always seem to find the negative aspects in things, when there is so much good that could come from weather magic. Stopping storms, therefore saving lives. Calling rain in drought-ridden countries to grow crops, therefore ending starvation. And as Bless says, we could use it to help the environment. Trying to get rid of chemtrails is a big part of my practice. Up next is a video from my friend Sam Shadow on the 4 celestial animals and how they relate to weather magic.
Hello everybody, this is Sam Shadow, and I'm here today on behalf of my good friend Lord Josh Allen to talk about the 5 celestial animals and how they relate to weather magic, and sort of how that might correspond with Western ceremonial magic as well. Well, first I want to talk about the 4 animals surrounding the center, and lastly I want to talk about the yellow snake. Okay, so green dragon represents wood, the tiger represents metal, the tortoise represents water, and the bird represents fire, and all of these elemental attributes work and coincide together to form the Chinese pentagram known as Wu Xing, and this can be utilized to control the winds and the rains in Taoist weather magic. Now lastly I want to talk about the golden snake in the center. He represents Earth. Now I want you to think about this magically. Earth is obviously the physical universe where we live, and the snake stays hidden in the center. In a sense, the golden serpent is the same as the magician, and in a Luciferian sense you could even say that he might be the holy guardian angel or an archetype of the higher self. And that's all that I have to share for now. Thank you, Josh, for letting me do this. Have a great night.
Brilliant. Thank you for sending in your video, Sam. It's actually so refreshing to see someone actually talking about the yellow snake of the center, which in my opinion is the most enigmatic out of all of the other animals. Now we all have our favorites, don't we? And as many of you may know, the red vermilion bird is actually my favorite. An intense and fiery spirit that works great during the summer months. Not so good for this time of year, with all of the yin energy that is in the air right now. The 4 animals are an essential piece to this practice. They are basically the foundation of Taoist weather magic. Each animal works in harmony with the other one, and this is what creates a sacred space where for a short time the magician can become the center of the universe. Up next we have my friend Silky Sullivan.
I was asked to make a video about my thoughts on weather magic from my good friend Lord Josh. Now, I normally don't make videos and I'm very awkward making them, so if you'll forgive me that. Well, weather magic, there's definitely a lot to it. Like, a lot to it. My beliefs are probably a bit different than most. I believe weather magic is just a very specific subset and category of a much broader field of elemental magic. You know, at its most base form, it is just the manipulation of the natural environment through the elements to bring wind, rain, clear the sky, clouds, mist, fog, whatever weather you want. But when you look into it deeper, and especially when you get involved with the more wider branches of elemental magic, you see how it just builds up on different layers. How there's a lot more meaning and complexity to it than initially meets the eye. You might be thinking, oh, I'll bring some rain to help with my crops or something, but when you look at it, you realize there's much more than just bringing the rain. You have to consider the energies and the effects of the rain and the energy you use to do that and how you bring it. You know, you can certainly use it just for the base material benefits, but it goes so much deeper and much more benefit if you consider the other applications and effects that go along with it. Good way to show that it's real and you can have an effect on the world. You know, just so many things you can do to it that lead into many other forms of magic and understanding of the world, and how the spiritual and physical realms are not quite as separate as you might initially think they are. There's this trend of thought that wants to think that the spiritual realms and the astral and all those energies and magic is somehow distant from physical reality, and you have to work to bring it close. And while you do have to work hard to do that, it's not as separate as you might think. There's the underlying energetic current to everything, and that's the basis of all magic, especially weather magic. You look at the elements, the building blocks of nature, and learn how it interacts with the world and what effects that has, not just the physical, but also the spiritual and emotional, mental side of it as well. So,
thank you for your views, Silky. I appreciate the video. Now, I like the idea of working with pure energy, pure source energy. One of the reasons why some weather magicians wear silver on the borders of their robes is because the color silver represents that of the original chi of all creation. So you could consider that the God chi, basically, God energy. Now, manipulating chi and cultivating it internally and externally is exactly what weather magic is all about. There are two kinds of people I encounter when talking about this subject. Those who only see the surface of weather magic. They think it's all about summoning wind for the purposes of summoning wind. The other kind look at it on a deeper level, the correct level. They understand that the winds can be used to blow away negativity. As Kong Ming once said, balance the outside with the inside, and the inside with the outside. You can consider the human body and the mind to be a bridge between heaven and earth. We are never totally in one realm at one time. Let us not forget about the storms that go on inside of our own crazy minds. Next up is my friend Freighter Superabo from the Magic Armory.
大家好，我是 Freighter Superabo. My apologies for my poor attempt at speaking Chinese. So let's do it again in English. Hello everyone, I'm Freighter Superabo with the Magic Armory YouTube channel, and these are my views on Taoist weather magic and weather magic in general. So yeah, Taoist weather magic, or thunder magic, or just weather magic in general. I I'm all for it. Unfortunately, I know there is kind of a negative connotation in some of the Taoist community and in the, you know, quote-unquote modern magical community about not doing magic, that you shouldn't do magic to affect the weather, or this whole concept of black magic and doing stuff with the weather because it affects so many other things that this is big scary black magic, ha ha ha, oh no, save us from the black magicians. Which of course, anyone that watches my channel know I think that's a joke. Weather magic, whether it be from an Eastern perspective or from a Western perspective, because there is Western magic to affect the weather. Anyone that says there's not is lying, or they just don't know what they're talking about. So, but I digress. My point is that weather magic, just like any other type of magic, it's just magic, and it can be used for, you know, positive or so-called good intentions, or negative or so-called evil, bad intentions. And that's just kind of where I stand on it. So I don't, you know, I don't see it as good or bad. I see it as magic, and I'm all for magic and practicing it in a safe, reasonable, concise, and positive manner to accomplish your goals. I think there's a lot of good that can come from doing weather magic, and yeah, I've practiced it myself, whether it be to keep things away, or yeah, we'll just leave it at that. So yeah, and to give some examples, just with the whole East to West thing, me personally, I practice mostly Western magic, and again, to this, to hear people say something like, you know, don't do weather magic, or weather magic is bad. You know, it's funny that the same people that'll say these things are the same people that would, you know, praise a man like Gerald Gardner, who many of you may or may not know, who did weather magic. I mean, one of his big claims to fame is during World War II, raising the cone of power and causing a storm so that Hitler's forces could not cross the ocean. And, you know, them chanting this "You shall not cross the ocean" chant over and over again. And, you know, like it or not, that's weather magic. So yeah, just to keep it short and sweet, you guys know I'm, you know, anyone who knows me, I'm not really good at being brief, so I'm going to cut it here. But weather magic, overall, just like any other magic, be safe, know the rules before you're going to adapt them or, you know, break them, and you know there's consequences to doing things. Every every action does have an action that's going to come from it. That's what, you know, that's how I see karma, is that you know, cause and effect. You see something and something happens. So, you know, my advice on the whole thing is just, like anything else, you know, take the proper precautions, know what you're doing, and, you know, take everything from a common sense perspective. So yeah, that's all I got. Thanks, and I'll see you guys soon.
Frater. Thank you. I absolutely love that robe you have on there. Really nice attire. Frater, you're spot on when you say there is a negative connotation around this kind of magic. It's very, very true. I join a lot of Taoist forums, and I see quite a lot of aggression and hostility aimed towards me, probably more so from the Taoists than anybody else, and that's saying a lot, really. It's a shame that a lot of the modern sects and lineages in China are completely opposed to it, aside from very few exceptions. Now, on the topic of other cultures and traditions of weather magic, some of the Mayan and Aztec practices are fascinating. You know why? Because they are so similar to the Taoist methods. In fact, if you take away the names of the deities, you change the robes and the candles and all that sort of paraphernalia, most forms of weather magic are very similar, because all of them have their roots in that prehistoric tribal days when people were living in caves and learning how to interact with nature for the first time. It all originates from there, and I share the same view as you. It isn't good or evil, it is magic, it is energy. It's how you use that energy that determines its effect. Don't blame the spell, blame the spell caster. That's what I say. Thank you so much to all of the people who have sent in their videos. Now let's get on with the preparations for the ritual. Before any ritual can take place, it is highly recommended that the weather magician goes out at least 3 days before the working to read the heavenly omens within nature. You can see here I am actively looking for information within the leaves and branches to see if my ritual will be a success or a disaster. The earth has a hidden language to it, and to those few who can understand it, they will be able to tell many important things by looking at the formation of the clouds, looking into the bark on a tree, or listening for the sound of whistling within the wind. All of these reveal so much to the weather magician. If the soil is dry and dead, this is a bad omen. If the soil is moist and heavy, this is positive. There is a rule known as the Law of 10. This is based upon looking for 10 signs and signals and synchronicities from the universe, both beneficial and destructive. For example, here you can see I am examining this leaf. If the veins of the leaf show up under the light of the sky, it is a good omen. If the veins are hidden, this indicates that a disaster may occur during your ritual. We can consider this one good omen out of the 10. So let's say if you manage to find 7 good omens and 3 bad ones, you can consider this a positive reading. But if you have 5 good and 5 bad omens, then the fate of your ritual could go either way. It's basically 50-50. The more good omens you can find within nature, the safer your ritual will be. Here I am watching the flight patterns of the local wildlife. Now it's important to know this. If a black-colored bird takes a sudden dramatic turn towards the west, this is a bad omen. If the bird flies straight or gently changes direction, this is auspicious, this is fine. If you see an animal attacking another animal, this is a sign that your ritual will be hijacked by a demonic entity. In other words, you will be attacked by an intruding spirit. Now, when you're doing this, when you're out in nature and you're reading the omens, take deep breaths when you are trying to gather the information. If you breathe in and smell any scent of sulfur, do not perform your ritual. Postpone it at least 1 week and then go out again and read the omens. If you live near a waterfall or a flowing river, pay very close attention to the sound of the water. If the water is quiet, clean and radiant, this is auspicious. If the water is loud, murky or contaminated, this is inauspicious. This type of magic is known as weather divination. It is best practiced during daylight for around 30 minutes, and you should record everything you find. So, what did I find during my reading? You will be pleased to know that I recorded 9 auspicious omens and only 1 negative one, which is excellent. When inspected, the bamboo plant bounced back when it encountered resistance. This shows that when the magician faces a challenge, he or she will also bounce back. I found that the wind direction was blowing from the south, which is auspicious. The soil was moist and healthy. The branches, when snapped in half, were wet on the inside, not dry or dead. The leaves all had healthy visible veins within them. The old tree had no signs of decay or rot within its trunk. The flight patterns of the birds were in accordance with harmony. There were no foul smells of sulfur or anything like that in the air. The The clouds and their shapes were relatively unremarkable. Now the only bad omen was the temperature. It was very, very cold. Therefore, this shows that the air contains an overabundance of yin energy and a deficiency of yang. Obviously, yang is more beneficial than yin, because a yin air has the tendency to carry diseases with it, and it is usually freezing cold, whilst yang air is healthy, healing, and generally quite warm. But I'm not going to let that stop me from practicing my ceremony. 9 out of 10 is brilliant. This all points towards a very good ritual. Spotting omens is all about paying attention to one's own intuition. If you see or hear something and it makes you feel uneasy, but you can't quite understand why, then write it down as an unlucky omen. Always go with your gut instinct. If you feel satisfied with the results, then it is proper to give thanks to the nature spirits. Offerings for these spirits will differ depending on the location, and it's always a good idea to first ask what they want, but usually in the Taoist tradition, it's common to leave offerings such as rice wine, which you pour out onto the ground. You can also give flowers or fresh fruit such as apples and peaches. After giving thanks to the spirits, you should conclude the reading and get ready for the main ritual.